good morning. Thank you all for joining us today at the Gulf Travel Show. Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Ms. Hala Matar Choufany, President, Middle East, Africa and South Asia for HVS. Hi Hala, thank you so much for joining us and thank you for taking out the time and being with us. We are really looking forward to hearing from HVS and understanding some of the trends that HVS predicts for the future. The topic of GTS this time is sustainable tourism, and we want to open with that. So, Hala, our first question to you is, how is ecotourism camps and lodges contributing towards sustainable tourism, and what growth practices do you predict for the future, or what growth patterns do you see in the future?
Thank you, Devika, for having me. Clearly this is a very interesting topic and a very important one. Clearly we are talking about it in terms of a trend, but it is beyond that. It has, when we talk about sustainable tourism and ecotourism, we're actually talking about responsible tourism. And what that means is that as individuals and travelers, we're responsible, and as governments and hospitality providers, they have a big responsibility in putting in the right strategy for sustainability. But let's talk numbers at the start of this conversation. Ecotourism as a market, the size was valued in 2021 at 186 billion USD. This is large, and it is expected to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of around 15% between 2022 and 2030. Which clearly suggests there is a massive market, and if we do it right, we are able to promote further ecotourism. Now, what does that mean in terms of the trends, or what does it mean in terms of what it's doing to the economy, to the society, and to the community? Clearly, beyond the environmental protection that is at the heart of what sustainable practices are, we're looking really at the socio-economic development, whether it is of rural areas, whether it is in helping elevate and educate the local people. It is creating and encouraging cultural sensitivity. And this is why I wanted to address the responsibility factor of developing ecotourism. It's a segment that is set to grow. It clearly has a lot of pros, but perhaps what we need to warn of and what we need to be very conscious of is the fact that we need to ensure that these ecotourism developments, whether they're lodges, camps, their primarily purpose is to appeal to travelers who, again, if we look at the numbers and statistically, there was a survey that was done, 70% of your travelers are making decisions based on sustainable practices, and 50% up to 55% of them are likely to book a hospitality offering that actually has sustainability at the heart of that experience. And this is quite important in trying to understand the future tourism and future traveler. But again, as I said, I think what is extremely important that we don't just look at it from the point of view that there is an opportunity and a market that we want to tap into, but rather how are we going to preserve and ensure that while we are supporting the ecotourism segment, that we are also ensuring we are protecting tourism for the next 50 years, for the next 100 years.
So thank you, Hala. Thank you for that in-depth analysis of the sector. But moving a bit away from ecotourism, I would want to pick your brain when it comes to the so-called post-COVID world, if we can call it that already. What unique or novel practices have you seen in the hospitality sector now? Now, what is the new world looking like when it comes to hospitality practices?
I'm not sure it is specifically relating to COVID. One thing definitely COVID has done, it's made us more aware. And perhaps, we're mixing now more corporate and leisure traveler. There's, a new buzzword called leisure. But I just want to always emphasize the fact that certain trends in the hospitality industry had already commenced prior to COVID. Yes, in terms of recovery, when we look at the segments that recovered the fastest post COVID, it was specifically the leisure and those that are very much, again, focused on the ecotourism. And looking at these opportunities, they're providing much more privacy. But generally speaking, I think the key trends in this industry that have started being disrupted and clearly going forward, this is what we are looking out for, is, specifically, I call it re-engineering the hospitality offering. What I mean by re-engineering the hospitality offering, from a hospitality development, what that means is we are looking now at creating experiences, and not just creating the experience, but our space utilization. So redefining the hospitality. It's not just about creating nice, fancy rooms. It's not about having a traditional meeting space. It's about really blending together the different components of what we call hospitality. So the idea of hotels has now expanded into a whole hospitality offering, which is where the governments and other stakeholders in the industry are playing a key role in terms of that is where you're sleeping, but that's the experience that you're having. That's how you're engaging with the local community, etc. I think one other important trend that we're seeing is the homegrown brands or homegrown ideas. So while historically we were very much dependent on importing of the large brands, this clearly continues to be a reality, but we're seeing much more, especially in the rural areas. The transformation of hospitality offering is very much reliant on the local partnership, be it in these sort of ecotourism projects and guest houses, or in creating the setups for a hospitality experience. The investment in sustainability or sustainable practices is clearly a key trend. And I think, and we've discussed that quite a bit here now, it does appeal to travelers, but also on the longer run, from an investment standpoint, I think this also contributes to a healthier return on investment. And the trend that is here to stay is the shared economy. And that is when we're talking about, the disruptors of the traditional hotel model into bringing in also your Airbnb and other forms of offering.
Wonderful. Thank you. So you introduced us to a really wonderful term, I think, that's called re-engineering hospitality. So that's one that I'm going to bookmark for sure, because I think that is, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to talking about hospitality in terms of the changes in the sector now. Have you seen any bigger changes in the bigger hotel brands in the region? So specifically talking about the GCC region now. So have you seen the brands move towards a sustainable future? Have you seen anything change there?
Clearly, when it comes to brands specifically, what we're seeing, yes, some of them are the forefront of rolling out their sustainability practices and have been quite successful actually in highlighting the importance to traveler. The bigger capture of the bigger sellers because they have introduced such. But I think beyond just these sustainable practices, what we have observed is that these brands are now looking also at rethinking their brand offering. While clearly there is a brand equity and travelers are there because they believe, they have confidence in that brand. But as I said earlier on, it is not just the focus on how do we get the traveler to stay at a specific property. It is beyond that. What is the experience that we're creating? How are we differentiating? How are we giving back to the community? In terms of development schemes, we're definitely seeing that they are now investing in smaller schemes, and they are introducing as well new brands. Right? So even the large operators, whether through mergers and acquisitions, whether it's through JVs, or whether through creating what they call their softer brands, perhaps their wellness brands, their lifestyle brands. There's a lot of technology out there that is being used. What this exactly is saying, that as hospitality brands, as hospitality industry, we are becoming more adaptable and more flexible. We are speaking to the needs of the future traveler. The future traveler today is looking for certain experiences. They want a lifestyle experience, and whatever that means. It could be luxury lifestyle, it could be affordable lifestyle, but basically the message out there is they want us to change. And I think many of those large operators and even the smaller operators and homegrown brands, they have that at the heart of any future trends or developments that they're doing into expanding further the hospitality footprint and portfolio.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We cannot let you go from H3S without discussing some of the latest findings that H3S sees in terms of hospitality trends right now. So, just as a concluding remark, if you could just tell us some of the latest findings and maybe give the top 3 trends to look out for, that'll be great.
Yeah, so in addition to clearly what we have outlined in terms of general trends, let's focus specifically on what is happening, at least in the emerging and mature markets. So if you allow me, perhaps we can focus a little bit on the UAE, and then we can move a little to discuss the hospitality outlook for Saudi Arabia. The UAE, in terms of recovery, it's clear that Expo 2020 and beyond just the Expo 2020, we are on pretty much what we covered, really. We're seeing demand grow, we're seeing new concepts being created, but that there is a better catch-up between supply and demand. And specifically, the government support in creating new pockets of opportunities, whether from a development perspective or for travelers. This will continue to allow this market to stabilize at pretty much healthy performance. In Saudi Arabia, and there is perhaps because of the infrastructure of the country now, clearly Vision 2030 is a massive contributor. We're definitely seeing that the government is creating the infrastructure, supporting the development of the hospitality offering, and there are a number of potential segments to be pursued. So the domestic market is being capitalized and is growing. Religious tourism has recovered, perhaps not to the 2019 levels, but with all the easing of visa restrictions, this is set to grow. We're seeing investment into cultural tourism. Again, when we talk about sustainable tourism, we haven't really defined that. Sustainability could take different forms, from cultural tourism to rural tourism to ecotourism, or even nature-based. And I think the reason I actually outlined all of these four, because I think Saudi Arabia is well placed to really capitalize, and is, in terms of, I wouldn't call it the trend, I'm calling it more as the opportunity to really develop the hospitality infrastructure and to cater to multiple segments of demand. One thing definitely, with COVID and with the challenges of the hospitality industry being seasonal as it is, right, and quite volatile as it relates to economic factors, political unrest, I think governments and owners have realized the importance of sustainable and financial development. So this is how I would like to also bring in the word sustainability into what we do as H3S. We are not looking at what today is financially viable. We're looking at recommending on schemes that are sustainable over a much longer period of time. So we're seeing a much more knowledgeable, sophisticated investor. That is clearly a trend we are enjoying at H3S. There is a much more understanding of what this industry is. Some education has happened along the way, but today the shift in the mindset of how we approach a hotel investment is clearly very visible in the mind of owners, and is also now back to the point of operators. They've realized that they have to come back with a different offering and re-engineer even the relationship with the owners. So that whole re-engineering of the hospitality is not just on the hard infrastructure, it's also the soft structure between the relationships and how we connect with the different stakeholders in the industry.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time that you've taken out today to join us and to share these in-depth analysis with us. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much, Hala. Thank you for being here with us. And friends, just to sum it up, there are 3 key takeaway words that I have picked up from Hala today, and I'm sure we're all going to be used to that. Rethinking, redefining, re-engineering. That's where the hospitality industry is headed. So thank you. Wonderful to have you with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.